Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Servan Moazan from Conscious Innovation. We are now 18 months in the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and with it, the realization that we left it quite late to sort many issues that were there before. Talking about inequality, racism, leadership that created little opportunities for some people, and a good bunch of negative social environmental impact, among others. So what are we doing now? What do we start doing differently? How do we do that? In this series, we take a step back and we ask leaders in the social economy what constitute repairing or building a new system for them, and suggestions on how to go about this work. So I welcome today Sheena Pentin from Careers for Change. Who are you, Sheena?
Hello. Hello, good afternoon, Servan. Great to be with you here today. I'm Sheena Pentin. I run Careers for Change, and what we do is we are a specialist recruiter for social impact jobs. So what we do is we connect purpose-driven individuals with innovative companies that are driving social change. So we work with a variety of organisations from the social impact sector, so from social enterprises to foundations, trusts, social investment firms, the likes of Big Society Capital, Social Investment Business, Power to Change, but also organisations in the commercial sector that have an authentic sustainability agenda. So we're trying to actually transition people from the commercial sector into the social impact sector, but also increasingly we're seeing a movement from the social sector into these commercial organisations that are either driving sustainability or looking at impact investment as an alternative. So we see ourselves really as a kind of a hub between the two, trying to join the sectors and trying to break down the differentiating factors between the sectors.
It sounds sometimes like an infiltration exercise, isn't it?
Oh yes, we do a lot of infiltrating for sure.
I love that.
Do a lot of digging. Yeah. It's a really interesting position to be in. You know, I work with some really inspirational people every day who are looking to make that change, and some of them at the beginning of their journey, others are actually looking for promotion within the sector, and others have gone further and just thinking, what else can I do? How can I make more impact? So we work with a variety of individuals, but many of them, or all of them, actually looking for making this kind of social impact at the end of the day.
Great. So I don't know how much you reflected about this question about that, the change that is needed at that. I'm sure you do with when you place people or you recommend certain position or certain candidates for some positions. In your mind, what constitute repairing or building new systems for you? How do you, if you do any of these, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a privileged position really, because I discovered social enterprise about 10 years ago. And prior to that, I had a corporate career in a very leading organization, publishing firm, Dow Jones, Wall Street Journal. And I actually was doing business development there. I was a senior director, and just had one of those moments where I thought, how can I actually use these business development skills to make change? And so I started looking around, started doing some charity work, just pro bono basis, and then discovered social enterprise. I'd never heard of it before, didn't know what it was. And of course, 10 years ago, it was actually in its early stages. And actually a recruiter at the time said, there's this organization called Clearly So. And I'm telling you this bit of background because I feel that what I learned 10 years ago at Clearly So actually led me to what I'm doing now, and why I'll actually respond to your question in a slightly different way than perhaps I would have done if I hadn't been on this journey myself. Mm-hmm. And that's to say that I found a model that actually is very innovative, that I've seen work in a very different way. I mean, I've been in the corporate world, where it's all about profit and extraction, and making money for other people normally. But now, I've actually discovered this world of regeneration, a regenerative economy. And and one where we can actually make a difference to individuals. So I think that the model that we have with social investment should actually be considered to be a really a great potential one for the commercial sector. So we're seeing organisations like Big Society Capital, for example, actually partnering with organisations like Schroders to form the Social Investment Trust. And that, I think, is the first of many. And it's really heartening for me to see that happening, because 10 years ago, when I was trying to drag or encourage corporates to support social enterprise, they just weren't willing. It was a very difficult job, actually, one of the most difficult business development roles I think I've ever had, and that was my life before, was business development. So, I think that's a model that one could use right now. I think that the big difference with the commercial sector would be to have some kind of impact weighted metrics so that they can prove impact. We've gone from SRI to ESG and now impact investment, and we have firms like Aberdeen Asset Management and UBS and some of the French banks like BNP Paribas and among several others looking at impact investment as a real opportunity. So I think that's where we have models, we have financial models that are broken, that need to be fixed, and perhaps we could integrate some of those social investment models with these commercial firms to actually, to make change in that way. I mean, similarly with sustainability in some of these corporates, there again, they are trying to make change. They are, that we have some of the early adopters, like Body Shop and Unilever and Marks and Spencer's, and now we're seeing organisations like Levi's and many of Nike even doing recycling of their trainers, and so they're attempting to make change, and these models though need propelling forward, and I think the only way to do that in a sense is actually to have some kind of sustainability metrics in place. Sustainability accounting needs to develop, and we need to have some kind of standard so that all organisations can follow that. So apart from that, I think there are other ways that we should be looking at change, about creating new systems. Something that I've seen, which again is really encouraging, is actually how communities, once they're empowered, can really drive forward their own agenda. So I've been working with the likes of Power to Change and seeing how their model has been developing, and they have they're driving this movement for community business. And there you're seeing how communities can actually run their own businesses. They can support their own communities. They're so used to being funded by government and grants and so on. And Power to Change is grant-led, but actually if you give the communities a chance, then they will actually really be able to make a difference, I think, themselves. Also, when you look at diversity and inclusion, I think we can actually change things there as well, change it up, see how we can actually create more innovative models by involving the whole community, being more inclusive. I think leadership is where it all starts as well, and that's where we feel it's really important with the work that we're doing to put responsible leaders in place that are looking at things differently. So they will lead their models, they will lead their businesses in a different way. So that's really essential. And the other thing for me is actually, having been in the corporate sector, then doing social enterprise, and now actually running a hybrid model, I think that collaboration is key. So actually making the social, public, private sectors all work together. And we have some fantastic models out there at the moment, like Guy's and St Thomas's, which is Foundation now it's called. They are looking at how actually financial inclusion can impact on health at an early stage. But what they're doing is they are actually pulling on the community, the public sector, the private sector, and trying to figure out a way in which they can engage the private sector in driving forward their agenda. So, and I think that will lead to many opportunities going forwards.
Wow, Sheena, you've given us a sort of menu of things to look at, and you put the spotlight. So yeah, if I heard well, there is something around looking at place-based approach, looking at system of accountability at not just at corporate level, but probably at individual level as well. When you talk about diversity and inclusion, so what is the behavior, the individual behavior, but the corporate behavior, the organizational behavior around these topics? Responsible leadership, that's a big topic. And you talk about collaboration, and you close as well by daring to look at to use a systems thinking approach when you develop you want to develop something that looks like an impact, joining services sectors, etc., and see what then happens. So that's a fantastic menu, and I think it's great for people just to not.
It's what I think about every day. You know, with the clients and I speak to it, and the candidates as well. There's always an element of a number of those different things going through my mind as I'm speaking to these individuals, because that's what it's all about. So if you're actually pushing forward a social impact agenda, then I think many of these factors actually all work at the same time.
That's the thing. Fantastic, Liz. We'll see how we can just break that down and put it in the summary under this video. So that's the £1 million, dollars, choose your currency dollar question. What do you think is now in the way of, that menu you've given us?
Well, I think old habits die hard. So we need to engage the new generations coming through, Gen Z and the millennials. Gen Z, I know I sound so American when I say that, but actually it's a really nice way of saying, actually, we need to listen to these kind of very young, passionate people. When I sit down and speak to my own children's friends about their careers, because they've just come out of school or university, and they say, well, I want to do this, I want to go into an asset management firm for 5 years, and I'm going to use that to go and do some impact investment work. And they already know what it's all about. I've done presentations and seminars at schools and at Said Business School, where we've talked about, how to enter a social impact career. And you don't have to start explaining to them about how to do it, what it is, what a social enterprise is, what impact investment is. So I think it's that learning that they've already got, and they've already learned about the SDGs, and they know, they have that knowledge. It's like, how do I use these tools now? So when you ask me about what is in the way, I think old thinking. I think we need to embrace innovation. We need to bring in these the millennials and so on, and engage them in the conversation. So I think that's one thing, and the other thing is power grabbing. We're still surrounded by leaders who actually want to be in control. They're not sharers, and I think we need to think about the responsibility of leadership and engaging all parties. And so that, I think those are probably the main things that are there up against us in terms of changing things, changing systems.
Wow. So two things I'm taking away from that is the value and the grace of listening to one another.
Yes, definitely.
And reevaluate one's attitude to power.
Yes.
That's not a means feat for this weekend, isn't it? And I see that anyone can also have a go at testing themselves on these two topics wherever they are, but not everybody's in a position to be entering an asset management firm in their career.
No.
but
others, it's been quite incredible. I've seen really high-flying students come out and want to start another course to be a nurse as a result of the pandemic. So the pandemic has changed thinking quite a lot. Right. So I think there are probably fewer obstacles post-pandemic as we emerge from the pandemic than there were previously, because people are re-evaluating their lives. So students that maybe would have gone off and done something else, traveling internationally, they are re-evaluating their own values as well. What do they want out of this going forwards?
Yeah.
They are fed up of extraction, and just they know they listen to people around them, and we really do have to think about the Earth's resources. So how can they use their own skills to make a difference? So some are joining, conservation charities or so on, but they wouldn't possibly have done this before they had a chance to really think. And I think that's possibly what the pandemic has done as well. It's made all of us stop, think, pause, and then what next? How do we use these skills?
So, Sheena, thank you so much for that. Some quite concrete, actionable steps there. I'm just wondering, imagining Monday morning, people have had this revelation and just listen to you talking and listen to other leaders in the social economy talking, and it's galvanizing, etc. And then it's Monday morning and they go back to what they're supposed to do Monday morning, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever, or earlier for some. Do you have two, three pragmatic action that individuals, people at work, neighbors in the community, and leaders can start this Monday morning, 8 a.m. when they go back, as opposed to just letting everything just fade away again, for further transformation?
I think that we all have to think about participation in this agenda, because whether you work for a corporate or a social impact firm, or you're a student, whatever role you are currently in, just think about how you can make a difference to social impact, to the world, to whatever it is that ticks your boxes on the SDG goals, and I think all of us can make a difference. We've seen how our community has changed locally. There are quite a few professionals here, and I used to just walk down the street to the train station and not say hi to anyone. But during the pandemic, actually, we all got together, set up a fund so that the local Italian restaurant could actually provide food to the hospital, and we provided the revenue for that. But it was everybody coming together and actually, just being more cooperative and thinking about everybody else in the community. So also the food bank. We all, once a week, each street where we are around here decided that they would be the ones to provide the food to the food bank. So every day, a street would take that responsibility. And the local hospice needed hand creams, so that the elderly, because they were using so many antibac, they wanted some hand creams, and within 2 hours they had enough hand creams for 15 different hospices, let alone just one. So it's actually, it's participation and engagement in the community as well.
If you haven't got the funds to provide, then at least you can provide listening or ideas, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, because everybody can participate in a different way. So I think that's one thing. I think another thing is about when it comes to corporates and the social sector, it's measuring impact. So, you can't improve on impact unless you measure what you're already doing. And I think that that's really important too, that, corporates, they're very keen on their metrics, and I think that needs to be part of the bottom line. So whether it's sustainability accounting or whether it's impact investing with impact weighted metrics, you have to have some way of measuring the kind of impact that you're making. So I've gone from one thing to the other here. I've gone from something that's very kind of inclusive and community led to something that I think, looking at the corporates, how they could actually get involved and change things. If you're in a corporation, what does your corporate do for the community or the environment, and do they measure it, and how do they measure it? And so bring in some standards of measurement, basically. Yeah.
Is that a tip that you would give someone who's looking to move around in their career, move up, move laterally, or move something new? Just circling back onto what your core activity is, which is creating that that connection between candidates and recruiters in that social economy. Would you advise them to be very clear on how they measure their own impact, for instance? What else?
Yeah, and it comes down to us all. I am also looking at that with my own organisation as well. What kind of impact are we making? Could we improve? How can we improve that?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think that's what a lot of individuals are thinking about when they come and talk to us actually about their next role, is that they're not, many of them actually from the commercial sector are saying, even if they're working for one of the big four, they're a management consultant, or they've been doing some social impact work, they just feel it's not close enough to the community, and they really want to have that on the ground and see the impact immediately and do grassroots community action. But then sometimes they have that for a year, and then they take that back into their corporate and say, actually, we could be doing a lot more. So yeah, I think evaluating that impact is really key.
Fantastic. And thank you for these quite pragmatic tips. I will help the people in the audience move forward and hope they connect with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very welcome.